Wednesday sat at the edge of her bed, staring blankly at the wall in front of her. It was just after midnight when she heard this sound. At first, she thought it was just the wind, or maybe a branch scratching against the window. She knew she shouldn't investigate, that she should just stay in her house and wait for the morning. But her curiosity got the better of her, and before she knew it, she was tiptoeing down the hallway. As she approached the top of the stairs, the noise grew louder and more distinct. It was definitely a voice, but it was muffled and hard to make out. And then, all at once, the voices stopped. There was a moment of silence, and then the sound of footsteps running down the road. Wednesday froze, but the footsteps faded into the distance, and soon the street was quiet once again. Wednesday let out a sigh of relief, feeling a wave of exhaustion wash over her. She opened the front door and noticed something on the path. It was a phone. Wednesday approached it and picked it up, her hands shaking as she unlocked it and opened the text messages. The first one was from an unknown number. It read, "We need to talk, it's urgent." Wednesday's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea what this meant, but she knew one thing for sure. She had to tell someone. The next morning, Wednesday woke up to the sound of me, Peach, knocking on her bedroom door. "Hey Wednesday, are you up yet? Come on, we've got a lot to do today. We're going to solve a murder." Didn't you hear about what happened last night? Mr. Jenkins was found dead in his backyard and the police have no leads. We have to help them solve the case.
How do you know all this?
I heard my parents talking about it this morning. They said the police are stumped and that someone needs to step up and help solve the case. Come on, Wednesday, that could be us.
Okay, but where do we start?
We start by going to Mr. Jenkins' house and seeing if we can find any clues. We set off towards Mr. Jenkins' house, our minds racing with possible suspects and what motives they might have had for the murder. When we arrived at the mansion, there were a group of police officers there who were busy combing the grounds for evidence. Come on, let's go check out the backyard.
I'm not sure that's a good idea. The police are still investigating.
We won't get in the way. We'll just take a quick look around and see if we can find any clues. I began making my way around the side of the house, Wednesday following behind. The backyard was a mess of overturned flower pots and broken branches. It was clear that a struggle had taken place here, but there were no obvious clues as to who might have been responsible. We searched the area looking for anything that might give us a clue as to what had happened. And then, wedged between two bushes, I spotted a glint of metal. Look over there. Is that a key?
Yes, it is, and it has Mr. Jenkins' initials on it. What could it be for?
It's definitely a clue. We should take it with us and see if it leads us to anything. Together, we set off to find out what the key meant and what it might lead to. As the days passed, we dove deeper and deeper into the mystery, following every lead and chasing down every clue. We interviewed suspects and scoured the town for any information that might help us solve the case. We started by questioning Mr. Jenkins' neighbours. One neighbour, a woman named Mrs. Thompson, told us that Mr. Jenkins had been threatening to reveal a secret about her husband's shady business deals.
He said he had proof and that he'd make sure the whole town knew about it. I told my husband to handle it, but he just laughed it off. And now look at where we are.
I can't believe it. Mr. Jenkins seemed like such a quiet man. I would have never guessed he was capable of causing so much drama.
Yeah, it's surprising. But we have to keep an open mind and consider all the possibilities. Maybe he had a good reason for threatening to expose the secret. But as we continued the investigation, we began to realise Mr. Jenkins was not as innocent as he seemed. We discovered that he had been involved in a number of questionable business deals himself, and that he had made many enemies over the years. Look at all of these names! There are so many people with a motive to kill Mr. Jenkins. It was while we were talking to one of Mr. Jenkins' business associates that Wednesday remembered something she hadn't told me yet. A text message she'd found on the phone. She pulled it out of her pocket and showed it to me.
I found this on the phone outside my house last night. I think it might be related to the murder.
We need to figure out who sent this and see if they have any information about the murder. We spent the rest of the day following leads and tracking down the sender of the text message. Finally, we were able to trace it back to a number belonging to Mr. Jenkins' assistant, a man named Peter. When we confronted Peter about the text message, he initially denied any knowledge of the murder. But under further questioning, he finally broke down and admitted to being present at the scene of the crime.
I didn't kill him. We got into a fight, but I left. Next thing I know, I woke up and saw on the news that he's dead.
We had never suspected Peter as a suspect, but now it all made sense. He had the motive, the opportunity, and the means to commit the crime. With this information, we knew we needed to go to the police and tell them what we had learned. They agreed that the fight between Peter and Mr. Jenkins was suspicious, but not evidence enough to convict him. We needed to gather more proof.
We'll do our best to gather more evidence, but in the meantime, we'll keep Peter in custody for questioning.
We were stumped. We'd come so far in the investigation, but now what? But then, Wednesday remembered something. The key! It could hold the last bit of information we needed to catch the killer. We decided to sneak back into Mr. Jenkins' house that night to try and find out what the key unlocks. Under the cover of darkness, we snuck back into the house and tried using the key on anything that we could find that was locked. Finally, we came across a locked drawer in the study. We tried the key, and it worked. It was a letter with an access code hidden in Mr. Jenkins' study. The handwriting was shaky and the words were barely legible. The code was for the hidden security cameras within Mr. Jenkins' home. He had security cameras!
This is a huge breakthrough. Let's find them. They have to be around here somewhere.
We went and used the access code and the video booted up. We went straight to the night of the murder. We watched through for what seemed like hours. Then, there it was. The murder in plain sight. We couldn't believe it, or who it was. We went straight to the police station to tell them everything we had found.
I must admit, I was skeptical at first, but as you have all the evidence, I consider this a case closed. An arrest warrant will be issued for the killer immediately.
It turns out the phone had belonged to Mr. Thompson. Peter had texted him when he found out what had happened with the business deal with Mr. Jenkins and was concerned. Mr. Thompson lost his phone when he got into an argument about the situation with Mrs. Thompson outside Wednesday's house that night. We watched as Mrs. Thompson was taken away in handcuffs.
I'm free! I'm free!
We'd done it. We'd solved the case. As we walked home, arm in arm, I knew I'd found a true partner in crime, and together there was no mystery that we couldn't solve. We do make a pretty great team.
Yeah, we do. And I have a feeling this won't be the last time we solve a mystery together.